think we're in trouble.
My name is Hale, and I am a junior by credit, but sophomore in my program because I'm a transfer student and I'm studying American Sign Language interpreting.
Hi, I'm Marion Johnson. I'm a freshman at Liberty University, and my major is interdisciplinary studies with a concentration of religious studies and entrepreneurship.
My testimony, let's see. I grew up in the church, always been a pastor's kid, still technically a pastor's kid because my dad's a military chaplain now. We left my church when I was about 13, which really set in some bitterness just because that was the only family I knew. Since living in Virginia, we just were surrounded by friends, and all of our family still lived in Texas.
Well, my parents didn't know Jesus when I was younger, and the only Christian that I knew was my grandmother. So she always used to take me to church, and about 6 years old, I kind of understood who God was and that he was real. And ever since then, I've always known that God exists. But then a couple years later, my parents got divorced, my grandfather died, my dad cheated on my mom, and then we lost the house and everything.
And so we started going to a new church. I got involved because I'm a very social butterfly. So little 13-year-old Emma was having a party. And they ended up announcing that we were going to move to San Antonio, Texas, or the church was going to create a campus. And I thought my parents were going to want to go, but I immediately was like, no, that's not going to happen, because I was like, at the time I was 14, I was like, there's no way. A month later, they told me that we were moving just because it was the smart decision for our family. And I was really angry about that just because all I knew was Virginia.
I started to learn to despise God. I hated him for everything that happened. I believed that he didn't have a plan for me, and that he did this because he hated me and that he didn't want me.
That whole year leading up to moving, I had a relationship I wasn't supposed to have, but at the same time I was yearning for the Lord while gripping onto everything in my life.
I went through many years of depression and just wishing that I had a purpose, but I always felt hopeless.
Total year of just self-diagnosed depression, nights where I was crying on the floor, sobbing, and just wouldn't let anybody help me. I was very much so I will love, but don't love me kind of thing. But it was just a lot of roller coasters, and I got to my senior year of high school, and I was at one of those low points with the Lord, where I was just kind of bored of church, wasn't really pressing into him. My friend, Laura, we started hanging out, which we hadn't before. Met a guy, started dating that guy. He was actually an atheist, so I dated him. Was hanging out with that one friend. She was just super toxic though. She started to turn on me. And then of course the spiritual weight of dating an atheist, when I was realizing too, one day I'm gonna be in ministry, and if I preach one thing but I'm married to an atheist, that doesn't make sense.
And then when I was about 14 years old, I went to a Christian camp and I read this Bible verse, and it was Jeremiah 29:11. And it said, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." And I realized in that moment that with everything that happened to me, with a divorce, seeing my dad choose another woman and a family over me, to seeing my home be gone and disappear from my grandfather dying, that through those experiences, God was with me, and that God had a plan for me.
I had a night where I actually was on the floor sobbing, and I was like, God, I am not where I want to be. I can see people looking at me differently. Woke up the next day, my mom remembers this day, and I turned everything around.
My mom actually became saved because of the divorce, and you know what, because through the divorce, that's probably how I became saved, because of the experiences I've had and drawing close to God.
All these bags were just dropping, and the Lord was pulling me closer. 2017 rang in, and he was just constantly showing me new things, and chose to come to Liberty, and now I'm here. And it's just been, since that day after the kitchen incident, has been a crazy turnaround in relationship and learning to love him for who he is.
I decided to join King's Players because when I first got here, my major was theater. And I always loved acting, and I'd always done it with a Christ focused. And when I realized my major was more of just the acting part, and it wasn't as much the gospel part. And then I heard about King's Players and how we were acting, but through acting we were sharing the gospel.
We got to Liberty's campus, and I had mentioned how I wanted to be involved in theater to some extent, whether that be in a local theater or something on campus, because it's something I love, but not something I necessarily want to study.
And I decided theater is great, but what I really wanted to do was share the gospel and take something I love to do it. So I auditioned for King's Players, and thank God I got in, and now I can share the gospel through acting.
So I Googled King's Players, saw a little bit about it, went up to their table, and I was like, hey, I saw your sign, tell me about it. And since I'm super social, I made myself known, so I had to come to auditions, and ended up hearing their story and got the opportunity to be on the team, which was incredible.
I absolutely feel like that through King's Players, I can share my testimony and connect with people, and that God can use me because I've seen things firsthand. I've gone through them, and through the characters I have and through the productions, I can hopefully connect to people that in the audience that have gone through what I've gone through and what the characters have gone through. And because of that, we can connect on a different level than if I had never gone through it. So I'm thankful for my past that I can use it to connect with others.
Being able to love on the people we're interacting with has been incredible. I've just learned so much about God's heart. One day I'm going to die, but don't you be afraid or sad, because death is just a doorway, just like the doorway to this bedroom. He died peacefully in that big feather bed. They locked the door and I never got to see him again. That's what death is to me. A locked door. But one day, I'm gonna get through and it'll be just like playing in my grandfather's bedroom again.